Thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. Do you have a well thought out content strategy with different types of content and irresistible offers throughout each stage of the customer journey? Or are you just picking up digital marketing for dummies to help you get started? Well, if any of that is true, then you'll love this episode. Today, we'll speak with Russ Henneberry, who is a digital marketing consultant and the co-author of Digital Marketing for Dummies. With his deep understanding in content marketing, we'll uncover some powerful strategies to follow as well as pitfalls to avoid. So let's listen to this podcast on digital marketing for dummies and sharks on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Russ, thank you so much for joining us on The Shark's Perspective today. We're looking forward to talking to you. Tell us a little bit about your career. I know a lot of people know of you from Digital Marketing for Dummies as a co-author. You've worked in a lot of high-profile areas, but tell us a little bit about your career up to the book.
Yeah, so Digital Marketing for Dummies is kind of a combination of, a lot of work mainly in either software or information products when it comes to lead generation, front end selling, back end selling, with a real focus on content marketing. So I guess, the recognizable brands I've worked on are like Salesforce.com. Neil Patel owns a company called Crazy Egg Software, which I did a lot of work for them as well. Of course, digitalmarketer.com. Worked on that brand for almost 5 years. So, but yeah, it's my expertise lies in lead generation, sales, and really retention using content marketing.
So those are small names. I know nobody's ever heard of Salesforce or Neil
Right.
Patel before. So good pedigree. So I've always been a big fan of the book, and I want to touch a little bit about it before we dive a little deeper into some other subjects. But I know it was published not that long ago, relatively. Tell us a little bit about the book, what inspired you to write it and co-author it, I believe, with Ryan Dice. But
Right.
how has that changed your career in the last few years? Last couple of years, I guess.
Well, I mean, anytime you have a book, it kind of opens some doors in terms of, there's a lot of stages and things like that you can't really speak on unless you have a book. So there's been some of that.
And it's a hell of a brand
Just
for a book too. It's not, there are a lot of marketing people who are best, in air quotes, best-selling authors. I mean, to have a group like the Dummies group, which for dummies like me, I'm a big fan of. That's a nice brand to put that around.
Yeah, and I like to say that it's one of the only books that's not really written for dummies. I mean, it certainly starts at a more foundational level when it comes to teaching digital marketing. The first 3 chapters are really based on, getting you a solid foundation as to a lot of it's about mind shift and understanding what you're really trying to do. But the rest of the book really focuses on, again, what I've been talking about: lead, sales, and retention, and how to use the various disciplines of digital marketing, from search, social, content, digital advertising, in order to make those things happen. Because I think a lot of people, they get caught up in digital marketing. They get caught up doing something that they were told to do, like tweeting or blogging, or doing running split tests or whatever it is, because they were told that's the next thing you need to do. That's the most important thing you need to do. I think the book does a really good job of giving you a sort of overview to start with, that helps you understand why you would ever want to tweet or blog or split test. I mean, all of these things are good, but only when they're done in the context of a larger plan that ultimately needs to lead to leads, sales, and retention of the customers you already have.
Absolutely. So digital marketing has, continues to change at, basically a breakneck pace.
Mhm.
And it's changed a lot of the fundamentals for a lot of people. To your point about those first 3 chapters and beyond, but I read recently where I think something like 3/4 of all marketers think marketing has changed more in the last couple of years than in the last 50, and and 2/3 believe that their company and their colleagues were not proficient in digital marketing, which I see as a pretty common thread with a lot of people that I've dealt with over my career with different clients and brands. With all that being said, though, how do you see the ecosystem of digital marketing changing, and how have you seen it evolved even since the initial edition of the book? Because I mean, there's new technologies and softwares that come out every day.
Well, I think probably the most significant two developments we've seen over, let's say, the last decade, and really less than that, maybe 6 8 years. The first one would be the proliferation of retargeting as a tactic, right? So, um, and you can see some of this sort of being pulled back a little bit as Facebook, starts to get called out on to Capitol Hill to testify about, um, you know, privacy concerns and different things like that. But the digital advertising platforms have certainly given digital marketers a lot of leeway in terms of being able to serve ads to people based on their browsing behavior, and other behaviors, right? And so that more than over the last, I would say we're firmly entrenched in a digital marketing landscape where you can really retarget. Um, and if you're not doing that, in terms of your traffic strategy, I think you're starting to get behind if you don't have a robust retargeting and sort of behavioral traffic plan in place. So that's been a very very big change over the last 6 8 years, and certainly we're well entrenched there. The one that's you're starting to see a real rising tide right now in terms of a change is the rise of AI and bots and things like that, especially with Facebook Messenger. So I think within the next 2 to 3 years, you won't know how you lived without Facebook Messenger. Um, it will be something that is firmly uh, it's very firmly entrenched on your phone as much as email would be, because there's just such a large user base and there's so many different applications of it, including the ability to drive traffic and advertise. So yeah, I mean those are a couple of things. Um, in the book, we do get into a lot of things about retargeting. We don't touch on AI and bots, and we're actually in talks with the Dummies folks about adding a section to the book about artificial intelligence and bots and stuff like that. So
So let's talk about some of the best practices then in content, which I know you've spent a lot of time on in your career. It's content's king, which is still one of the best taglines of all time. I mean, nobody thinks of content as the bishop or rook of marketing. So
right.
they wouldn't have really have taken foot the same way. But so if it is king, how do we use it in the best way? I know you've seen a lot of ways, good and bad. What are your sort of ideas on best thoughts of use of content?
Well, I think the reason people keep coming back to this content is king concept is because content touches, when it's done properly, it touches all stages of the customer journey, from a customer becoming aware of your business and your products and your people and whatever you need them to become aware of, to if you break it down just your simple three-step funnel. You've got awareness, interest, and then purchase, right? And really you have post-purchase, right? So we want to go through four stages and keep it very simple. There is content that is needed at the awareness stage, and there are various different formats that content can be in order to drive awareness. But obviously, if you've ever been a business owner and you've said, "Boy, if everybody just knew what I did, or if everybody just knew about my product, I would win." Right? I would win. Um, then you have an awareness problem, and you need to
Hmm.
be looking at content marketing through the lens of that business problem, that no one knows who you are and what you do. And so at that awareness stage, you have things like blogs, podcasts, videos that could be published on large hub sites like YouTube, right? So you want to be using content and make it as wide a net as possible. Put it out there for free. Establish your expertise, or entertain people, inspire people, but draw people in. Try to build things and put them out there on the largest channels that you possibly can, from things like you're doing here, Kenneth, using iTunes and other podcasting networks. Like, this is a big, broad, top of funnel, what we would call top of funnel part of your content strategy, is to just as widely as possible distribute content, and bring people in. But then, the problem with people in content marketing is then they move into more of the stage where someone is aware of what you're doing, and they have, all that knowledge that they need about you, and they go into sort of an evaluation stage between, thinking about, well, should I buy from Kenneth, or should I buy from Russ, or should I buy from somebody else, right? So you go into this evaluation stage, and the content needs to change at that stage, right? You need different types of content in the middle of the funnel. So you may need something that compares, a page on your site that compares your service against somebody else's service, whoever a strong competitor is. Your software against somebody else's software, your product against somebody else's product. You might need a webinar that shows a demo of what you do. You might need video in the middle of the funnel that shows people the features and benefits of your product versus the others, because that's what they're doing. They're looking for pricing, they're looking for features, they're looking for social proof in the middle of the funnel, right? They're looking for other customers. In other words, social proof meaning they're looking for other people that have successfully used your product or service. And those kinds of things are great in the middle of the funnel. And then at the bottom of the funnel, the content needs to change once again. What are people looking for right at the point of sale, right when they're sort of getting ready, they got their credit card out? What are they looking for? And a lot of that is testimonials and more social proof at the bottom that will help to tip the scales, um, and help them feel comfortable with making the purchase. Because your whole goal with your content marketing needs to be to draw somebody from complete unawareness all the way through to the purchase, and make them feel informed that they're making the right decision, and keep reinforcing the fact they're making the right decision. You need to use combinations of education, and social proof all throughout your funnel, um, to be serving them the right content. I think that's why people come back to this whole idea that content is king, is because it really is involved in all three stages all the way up to the purchase. And then, of course, the post purchase is where people, sometimes, if you've ever looked at your business and said, God dang, if I could just keep the customers that I get,
Mm-hmm.
if I could close the holes in my leaky bucket and reduce churn and all these things. Well, content's another, that's your key there as well. So you need support documentation. You might, so if you're, especially, like, the easiest one to think about is like a software company that has no support documentation, right? That's content marketing. You'd have nothing that helps somebody be successful with your product. Um, you should expect high churn if you have nothing to support your product. You're not helping your customers continue to be successful after they've bought. You're going to have higher churn, and you can use content to get that churn and retention problem under control. So, in a nutshell, that's the way I think about content marketing. A lot of people will think of content marketing as blogging, right? They're like, oh, yeah, I'm doing content marketing. I have a blog. And of course, a blog's a great tool at the top of the funnel to drive awareness, but it's a really, really poor tool to use to close deals at the bottom of the funnel,
Agreed.
or to, you know, it doesn't do any other job very well except that high top of funnel sort of awareness level content marketing. So, uh, there you go. There's my philosophy on content marketing
Yeah.
in just a
You,
nutshell.
I think one thing it's funny too, and I'm with you everywhere along the way. I think one thing that's really interesting is that we don't cover as much anymore. When you focus that much on content marketing, it's a good problem not to have. Is it's not always a question about price anymore. Price works itself out to some degree. because there's a little more transparency than there used to be with other products. But really, it comes down to the kind of things you can add from a research perspective, the social proofing, what others are saying, what people say after they bought. But it doesn't come down to this one. This widget cost me $10 and the other one cost me 12.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're competing on price, that's great. Like, go out there and discount your widget down to and try to compete against everybody just by simply saying I'm cheaper. But um, that is a real race to the bottom,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
is generally should be reserved for the Walmarts of the world that have buying power that is just out of control. If whether you're doing products, service, information products, digital products, software, no matter what, you don't want to be competing on price. You want to be competing. You need to differentiate yourself, and your ability to make someone feel comfortable and confident, as they move through your selling process, um, is is a major differentiator. Most people just want the problem solved. They don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to look like, especially in the B2C scenario, they don't want to look like a fool in front of their colleagues.
Right.
So, there's a lot of motivations behind why someone will pay a higher price. Uh, and if you can lay your content marketing out the way I described it, that's a real great differentiator.
Agreed. So a lot of marketers, we're both in, lead acquisition, but a lot of marketers in lead acquisition and performance throw all their money into paid search, and understandably because of the
Hmm.
the short-term quick hit that, a Google or Bing can bring, from an ad standpoint. So how can content though be leveraged to increase sales, increase leads and sales and retention, and what do you need for that longer term content play to really build scale so that you're not missing as much from pouring that many more dollars into search, because it's not a one-to-one. I mean, but you see people investing more money in content right now. It's just a longer term play.
It is a longer term play, and it's one of the it's kind of like, the old adage, like, when's the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. When's the
Yeah.
best time? The second best time is right now.
Yeah.
And so, plant it is like planting a tree. Especially a very very something that's going to be used for initial awareness. If you want organic traffic, especially search traffic, to be that traffic source, yeah, it's like planting a tree. You need to put your head down for a year before you start questioning whether or not it's working, right? And put your you know the companies that I see that actually, sort of go all in on content, they need a year, and then they look, and they those bosses, those managers, those founders, whoever's in charge, right, needs to give that team leeway, for that amount of time, 6 months, year and a half, 2 years, to start really seeing things paying off. But absolutely worth it, especially when, you mentioned, there's a rising cost of clicks right now, and as
Don't I
Facebook
know it?
continues to become super super mainstream, you've got this sort of duopoly of Google clicks and Facebook clicks, and they're both getting expensive. And so everybody's sort of like, well, I wish I would have planted a tree a couple of years ago,
Sure.
and got a top of funnel content strategy going. But um, here's what I would say is that you have to kind of make a decision if you want organic search traffic. In other words, free Google traffic, or quote unquote free traffic from the search engines. You almost need to have a volume of content. You almost need volume there, quantity of content. Uh, because you're kind of competing for clicks against publishers, some of which are publishing 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 times a day,
Hmm.
you know, uh, posting to their magazine, their online magazine, or their blog, whatever you want to call it. So you almost need to get into the volume game if you want some real hardcore search search traffic to come your way.
Well, you really have to look at yourself almost to that example as a publisher. I mean, an advertiser,
Right.
if you're really diving in, you've got to become a publisher of content, not just the brand.
Yeah, and that can mean a lot of things. I mean, a large organization
Right.
like Salesforce.com, for example, or Digital Marketer even was a small business, but we had a whole team involved in the content production side of the house, and of course at Salesforce we had an entire team that was you know producing content like a publisher. If it's just you and you're kind of or you're a smaller concern, I you know one of the easiest ways to produce content when you're in a hurry is to do just what you're doing right now, Mr. Shark, which is audio and podcasting. And remembering that, yes, of course, you're putting this content out there and you're putting it on somebody else's land, if you will. In other words, you put it on iTunes land or other podcast distribution, but you can reuse that content on your blog and get a system together where you can produce more of a volume, because audio is a real easy way. You asked me to do this interview. If you would have asked me instead to write you a 2,000 word blog
Oh,
post, I would have said,
absolutely.
sorry, man, I
Yeah.
can't. I don't have time.
Yeah.
But can I jump on a call with you for a half hour and talk some content marketing and some lead generation and stuff like that? Absolutely.
Good
And
point.
so, I'm really, really excited about audio right now and video. But if you're a writer, that's all. Go ahead and write. One more thing I would say about that, though, is that the last place you want to start, if you have an existing business, you have an existing business that has existing customers and existing demand around your products and brands, the last place you want to start usually is up at the top of the funnel, building a blog or a podcast or any of those things. First things first, fix the bottom of the funnel, fix the post funnel. Look at, because sometimes you only need one piece, one page, one video, one something that would really make a tremendous impact at the bottom of the funnel. Like maybe it's a customer testimonial video or a customer testimonial just written up in a PDF that you could start sending to prospective clients. Or maybe it's a comparison sheet that you can use to compare your product against somebody else's product that you would send to customers that are deeper in the process and in the funnel. These things are usually easier to spot, easier to put together, and have a much more dramatic impact on your top line revenue than a blog ever would, because the blog is really designed to, again, it's a tree. It's got to be planted. It's going to take some time, and it's going to bring in a lot. It's going to bring a volume of people that are completely unaware, not very far down the customer journey. So you want to be looking. You want to be looking deeper in the funnel. Maybe it's post funnel if you're having a churn or retention problem. Like, how can you support using content the customers you already have? Then back up from there. Okay, maybe I've got a closing problem. Am I having a problem closing proposals, deals? Am I having trouble? Is my checkout page not got the right content on it? Something like, for a retailer, something like adding a very, very clear link and page about your return policy is content marketing, right? That could increase your checkout rate at that maybe increases a couple of points, right? Because enough people are seeing, like, they have that objection and question, like, what is the return policy here?
Mm-hmm.
Look for stuff like that deeper in the funnel before you go. And then once you kind of got your bucket, you're starting to work on that, then go back and look for your top of funnel, your big awareness piece, and think about podcasting and video, not just thinking you have to always sit down and write something.
Agreed. Well, I mean, look at the beauty of podcasting and video, especially podcasting with a lot of the tools out there. You can transcribe all of this stuff and put it out
Yeah.
on a website, and it's an additional content piece. To your point about adding, basically sort of an FAQ, answering a return policy. I couldn't agree more, because I've sort of always lived under with the sales question of the confused buyer always says no. the
Right.
fact that you put something out there that answers that question and based off a small content piece, you probably save yourself thousands of hours, not one conversation with one customer. It's the thousands of people rather that would come to your site and have those similar questions. So let's switch gears a little bit. To talk a little bit about blogging. And not that long ago, I read on
Hmm.
your blog post about on digitalmarketer.com about crafting irresistible offers, and I really like it. But
Hmm.
the post basically focused on a brand not making sales and how people want to kill off a product or service prematurely. Walk us from a high level, sort of your multi step plan on how to create those irresistible offers. We don't have to
Yeah.
dive too deep. I would encourage everybody to go read it. But what's the value in creating what sounds like an obvious to do, but takes a little more thought and can be, a game changer if done correctly?
Well, the first thing is to understand that, products and offers are two different things. A product is not an offer, a service is not an offer. So let's take something as simple as, a hamburger, which is something we can all relate to, right? And a hamburger is a product. And let's say that hamburger is being sold by another place we can relate to, which is McDonald's, right? So McDonald's selling a hamburger, that's a product. But the minute you slap a price on it, now it's got a product with an offer. So let's say that hamburger is $2.99. So now I have a product and I have an offer. I don't have a very compelling offer, but I have an offer, right? So it's like, here's a product. It's two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, blah, blah, blah. And it's $2.99. Okay, that's an offer. I can decide whether I want to take that hamburger for that $2.99 or not. Um, what happens a lot of times with businesses is that they will put a product out or a service out there and they will try to sell it. Okay. And they will go out to the market and they might say, here's my hamburger, it's $2.99. And while they have an offer, they don't have a real compelling offer there. And if it doesn't work, like you can't sell that hamburger or that service or that product or that software, whatever it is, it may not be the product. So the mistake you see people make is they go, well, I guess this product just no one wants this.
Hmm.
And the question is, did did you try it a number of different ways in terms of the offer? Did you try different offers for that same product? Because I can't tell you how many times I've been, um, and one of the things I've always worked on over the years is offers, right? We take a product and we wrap it in a different shirt, if you will, and that's that offer. And so the first thing you need to think about if your product's not selling or your service isn't selling is, what's my offer look like, and is there a different way I can try to present this offer? So it's a combination of what is the offer and how are you articulating it. So the copy that's written around the offer or the way that it's described. It more than likely, if you built a product or service and it's not selling and you think it's good, like you've got a few customers that are like, this is good stuff, like whatever, this hamburger's good, this service is good. Look at your offer and look at the way you are articulating that offer. So it's the offer itself plus the copy that you're using, or the words that you are using to describe the offer, uh, could resurrect a dead product or service and make you say, holy cow, I'm glad I didn't throw this thing away.
Mhm.
um, Now it's selling.
So let's talk then a little bit about some of the common mistakes that you see digital marketers and brands make today.
Yeah, well, so I mean, when it comes to when it comes to this idea of making offers, here are a few things. Here are a few things to try rather than making that mistake of pitching your product in a trash can because it's not selling. So what do I mean by it not being a changing up the offer? So you take that same hamburger and you add a second hamburger and you raise the price by 50 cents. So let's say now you're selling two hamburgers for a price of $3.49. That's a new offer. That's a new way of selling the same hamburger. Let's say I take that $2.99 hamburger and I add fries and a Coke, right? So I do some cross selling, right? Some cross selling into my French fries and my Coke. and I charge $4.99 for that bundle of products. That's a new offer, right? What if I offer half off of this hamburger, so it's $1.49, but only on Wednesdays, right? So that's another offer, right? It's the same product. We're continuously selling 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, but we're continuing to add different things. Whether it's, I'm going to bonus in another hamburger, I'm going to put it off 50% off, but only for this amount of time. I'm going to add some different products around it. And really think about this, guys. Like when you're looking at your products and services, if you're just kind of slapping a price tag on them and you're not doing anything to enhance your offer, whether it's adding a deadline with a discount or bonusing stuff in or bundling with other things, there are so many different ways that you could reconfigure what you're selling. And what you're looking for, this is the secret, man, actually. What you're looking for is the offer that just kills it
Mm-hmm.
for you. And you're like, oh my God, look at that. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen it, especially at Digital Marketer, where we finally put something in the right light and described it the right way. This is one of the reasons why I say studying copywriting and the old copy legends like David Ogilvy and Robert Collier, and
Absolutely.
even more newer guys like Joe Sugarman and Dan Kennedy, and understanding the power of persuasion and understanding how to describe something so somebody would be interested in it, is also important, because you might have the right offer and the right product, but you don't describe it well in a compelling way, and it still loses.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of the big 3 things that are usually the problem. Either the product's not desirable at all, in which case you got a product problem. You don't have the right offer, or you aren't articulating the offer properly. Other than that, you know, what digital marketing comes down to is distribution, just like anything else. Like if you ever watch Shark Tank, which I'm imagining you do, because
Absolutely.
you're
Big fan.
is connected to your nickname. If you ever hear Mr. Wonderful or any of those guys say, "What? Where are you going to get distribution
Uh-huh.
for this?" What they mean is, how would anybody ever know that you've got this thing? And once you have that mix right, the offer, the way you're describing it, and the product is right, you have now a distribution situation where you like, am I going to go through retail? Am I going to just buy a bunch of traffic and drive it to a landing page? Am I going to put it on Amazon? Like, how am I going to get this thing out to the earth? So you got an offer, you got a great product, you've got a great way of articulating that, and now it's about pouring gasoline. It's about distribution, and that's when you can go and buy expensive clicks. You can go and buy expensive clicks because you've got your offer dialed in, you've got your copy dialed in, you've got your product dialed in. You can buy more expensive clicks than your competitor that does not have those things dialed in and is not converting at the level that you are. Um, so yeah, this whole stuff around offers is something I almost never hear anybody talking about, and it's just so important. Um, I do encourage you to go to digitalmarketer.com and maybe just Google around for, I think it was called Irresistible Offers on digitalmarketer.com by Russ Henneberry. There's a
Yeah.
whole article there about that. So
I'll definitely, I need to post that on my LinkedIn, and just to show you where content marketing works with irresistible offers. I'm now really hungry for a double decker hamburger. So
no doubt.
no doubt. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the best ways to measure the success of content marketing campaigns at a high level. I mean, I'm not talking too heavy into
Yeah.
GA, but some of the methods directly convert with cleaner attribution, but that doesn't mean that content doesn't deliver well. And there are companies out there who still haven't done a deep dive into content because they don't know what it can do. What kind of guidance do you give people and brands?
Well, I think it starts with understanding again that content can be used throughout the funnel, and that you should not put the wrong metrics on, at the wrong stage of the funnel. So what am I trying to get done when I'm participating in awareness type marketing, where I want to get a lot of people aware of our brand, our products, our services, with top of funnel content strategies like a blog, like a podcast, like a YouTube channel, things like that I'm just putting out there, freely available, high quality uh, content that entertains, inspires, drives value. What am I trying to get done there? I'm trying to drive awareness. So don't measure your podcast, your blog, your YouTube channel on sales. That's a bad metric to get pinned. And if you're holding your agency, your employer, your employees, yourself to how much, if you're asking this question, how many sales did that blog post make? How many sales did that podcast produce? You are asking the wrong question. Remember, your goal at the top of the funnel is awareness. So measure awareness, measure impressions. How many downloads did I get on that podcast? How many views did I get on that video? Uh, how many people visited and read that blog post? And then you need to be using these top of funnel resources. This is the part that people always forget, to move somebody to the next stage in the funnel. So if I am if I'm doing a YouTube channel and I'm just driving awareness, I'm like, I just want to get as many views as possible. The next thing I want to do is hang a little call to action in there that drives somebody out of that YouTube channel and over into a squeeze page where they can give me their email address, right? And then so I'm gonna create some piece of content, whether it's a free report or a cheat sheet or something like that, in the middle of the funnel. And there I'm gonna measure not sales, not impressions anymore. I'm gonna measure the opt-in rate on that conversion page, right? So if I've got a free report, which is content, if I've got a free video or free cheat sheet or a free checklist or whatever it is, it's sort of like a bribe, right? Here, give me your email address. I'll give you this cheat sheet, this checklist, whatever it is. I'm going to measure the opt-in rate in the middle of the funnel. And then as I move deeper, I'm going to measure sales, right? Now I'm starting to measure sales. Like what's the content? So I always talk about Nordstrom.com. This is an easy one because people know what Nordstrom is. They're a clothing company. They sell high-end clothes. And one of the things they sell is suits. And deep in the funnel, they have a page on their website that helps you decide what cut of a suit you would want. Is it a slim cut? Is it a more classic cut? Like which cut of a suit would you buy? And that page is what I call a money page. That's a page, it's a content page, content marketing in the middle or deeper in the funnel that helps people decide what kind of suit they would ever buy from, and presumably from Nordstrom. So that kind of content, like, you're driving awareness. Now, how do you move somebody over onto a page where they can actually make the sale? And the metric there is sales. Now you're measuring sales. The biggest mistake we see with people in metrics and content marketing is holding the wrong types of content responsible for the wrong metrics. How many leads, how many sales did that blog post drive? And that is just death, right? Because you're measuring the wrong thing. And some people will say, oh, well, you can measure those vanity metrics all you want. And I'm like, but it's not a vanity metric. Awareness is the first step towards somebody becoming a customer. And so, the people that really get what this stuff is about at the top of the funnel, like yourself in this podcast, is that it's about driving awareness. And you should be happy when you see more podcast downloads, because what that says is more people are now aware of the shark.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I'll agree with your point along that way completely, because I get so frustrated with last click.
Right.
I think destroys the ability to truly measure where content plays a significant piece as part of the customer journey before they buy. And it
Yeah.
just really drives me crazy. It's part of the narrative and the story and the journey, not it doesn't have to be the only entry point into an e-commerce channel.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, last click attribution it's the easy way
Yeah.
to measure
Yeah,
something,
true.
but
It-
it doesn't show it doesn't show paint a good picture for any of the things that assisted in that customer's journey.
And content to me is a lot like TV, and I worked heavily in addressable TV where you can measure it, but it would be where you would see that it was one part of the journey, not somebody saw an ad and then decided to go buy, a new Honda the next day.
Right.
That doesn't work, but it might be the triggering event, or it might be one of 50 other pieces that got them started in learning more about researching the product. So anyway, well, Russ, this has been an education for me, and I thank you so much for being on A Shark's Perspective today. People can go find Digital Marketing for Dummies on Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble, and pretty much any other good book retailer that has good marketing books. But tell us where people can find out more about you, where they can follow you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got content spread all over the web. A lot of it is on digitalmarketer.com. My website is russhenneberry.com. It's HENNEBERRY.com. I do some speaking around the world and country, and so if you ever see me at an event, I'd love to talk to you. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. It's some really, really insightful, questions that led to some really cool insights. So
Same as well. I
appreciate it.
appreciate you helping us all learn some stuff. So great. Have a great day, and thank you again, Russ.
Bye bye.
So there was my conversation with Russ Henneberry, digital marketing consultant and co-author of Digital Marketing for Dummies. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from that conversation. First, 2 of the most significant developments over the last several years include the proliferation of retargeting as a tactic. If you're not doing that as a traffic strategy, then you're getting behind. And the rise of AI and bots, especially with Facebook Messenger. In 2 to 3 years, you won't know how you came to live without Facebook Messenger. Second, content, when it's done properly, touches all stages of the customer journey. Make content and cast as wide a net as possible, and think about the different stages of content for different stages of the funnel. Make content for awareness, for research, for point of purchase, for informative content that helps with retention. And if you want organic traffic, then you need a volume of content and traffic, because you're competing for clicks against a lot of publishers, some of which are publishing many times throughout the day. Third, there are so many ways that you can reconfigure what you're selling. What you're looking for is the offer that just kills it for you. Those are your irresistible offers. Got a question? Please feel free to find me on LinkedIn or send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this show regarding another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. Have an awesome day and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.